I'm 75 now, and I can't remember anybody except the Queen bee.
The palace did not shake because of a speech, a scandal, or a public mistake. It shook because of one private instruction from King Charles, written in a sealed final wish letter and read behind closed doors. And when the names were spoken aloud, one absence landed harder than every word on the page. Camilla was not included, and the silence that followed became the first sign that everything had changed. Before we go deeper into what this really means for the royal family, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single update. Charles sat through the reading without saving anyone from pain. The sealed final wish letter, a private written instruction meant to guide how his personal, legacy, and future royal direction should be protected, named William, Catherine, and Princess Anne as guardians of what came after him. It did not name Camilla. It did not give the queen consort a smaller role. It did not even offer her a ceremonial place. The king let the words stand, and that was why the room seemed to shrink. Camilla did not move at first. She heard William's name, then Catherine's, then Anne's, and each one seemed to push her further from the center of the life she believed she had earned beside Charles. Her hand tightened around the edge of the chair, just enough for one courtier to notice. That same courtier looked toward the king, waiting for a correction. A pause. A gentle explanation. None came. Charles kept his gaze forward, heavy but clear, and Camilla understood the cruelty was not in anger, it was control. William lowered his eyes before he looked back at his father. He knew this was not just a family preference, not just affection placed on paper. This was a declaration of trust, and the prince felt the weight of it land on him before anyone spoke his name again. Catherine carried a different shock. She had not asked to stand in Camilla's shadow or replace her in Charles's mind. Yet Catherine's place in the letter made the comparison impossible. Anne understood faster than anyone. She had watched the king long enough to know when he was wounded, when he was stubborn, and when he had already made peace with the cost. This was not written in fury. This was not punishment after one bitter night. Charles had considered it, sealed it, and allowed it to be read in front of the people who mattered most. Once the room understood that Camilla had not been forgotten by accident, every person present had to ask the same dangerous question. Who still mattered most to Charles now? A royal crisis rarely begins with shouting. Sometimes it begins with people sitting too quietly, knowing one sentence has rearranged years of loyalty, marriage, duty, and ambition. Charles had spoken through his final wish. But the real drama lived in the faces around him. Camilla felt erased. William felt burdened. Catherine felt exposed. Anne felt summoned. And everyone knew the monarchy had chosen sides. Charles set the letter down with a deliberate movement, and no one mistook it for weakness. The crown, the symbol of royal authority, passed from one monarch to the next, felt less like a jewel and more like a weight being handed across the table. The king carried power, but he also carried exhaustion, and both were written into the silence he allowed to grow. He did not explain himself twice. He did not reach for Camilla. He did not soften the names. Camilla turned toward him, with restraint that made her pain more dangerous. For years, the queen consort had fought for acceptance, not only as a wife, but as someone who believed she belonged inside the deepest circle of trust. Her title meant she stood beside the monarch in public life, but this final wish placed her outside his private future. She asked one question, quiet enough to sound controlled, and sharp enough to cut through everyone. Was this your choice? The king closed the folder. That was his answer. William lowered his gaze, because he understood the burden before anyone named it again. The prince was not simply receiving favor from his father. He was inheriting responsibility for memory, direction, and the fragile story the family would tell after the king could no longer shape it. Catherine felt that pressure too. Her name in the letter did not feel like victory. It felt like exposure. She had become a sign of steadiness in a house that badly needed it, and that made her presence powerful and painful. Anne watched the fracture form without rushing to fill it. The Princess Royal, the monarch's sister, often seen as a figure of duty and discipline, knew why her inclusion mattered. She represented the old code: loyalty without performance, service without complaint, truth without decoration. that made her difficult for Camilla to challenge. It also made the omission harder to dismiss as emotion. No one moved toward Camilla. No hand touched her shoulder. No voice tried to rescue her dignity. That absence became the second rejection, colder than the first, and it told the room that sympathy would not undo the decision. But the wound did not begin there. It began earlier, with one moment behind palace walls that Charles never forgot. Every palace has a moment people pretend not to remember. A look across a table, a sentence spoken too coldly, a door closed too hard. For Charles, the turning point had a name: the Windsor Anniversary Dinner. What happened that night did not reach the public, but inside the family, it became the moment when old doubts hardened into a final decision. Camilla arrived that evening already carrying a wound she had not admitted aloud. The Windsor Anniversary Dinner was a private family gathering, held to mark an important royal debate. The kind of occasion where unity is expected, smiles are measured, and every seat at the table carries meaning. Charles wanted calm because the family had already been under strain, and the king knew one more crack could become impossible to hide. William wanted restraint, because Catherine had been pulled deeper into private talks about the future, and he understood how easily her quiet role could be turned into a threat. Catherine remained composed when the first remarks began to sharpen. She had been consulted on household matters because Charles trusted her judgment, and that trust mattered because the monarchy needed a softer, steadier face after years of pressure. Camilla watched that trust move around the table like a warning. Then the queen consort asked why Catherine was being included in conversations that once would have passed through older hands. No one answered quickly enough. That silence gave the moment its teeth. Camilla leaned into the wound and made it impossible to ignore. Some people are treated as future queens long before they have earned it, she said, and Catherine's face changed. Not dramatically, not loudly, just enough for William to see it. The prince moved his chair back sharply, and that single sound cut through the room harder than a shout. He warned Camilla not to speak to Catherine that way again, and the warning mattered because it showed Charles exactly where the next reign would draw its lines. Charles watched without interrupting, and that was what Anne noticed most. The Princess Royal saw his expression move from discomfort to disappointment, and Anne understood the shift before anyone else did. This was no longer a tense dinner. This was proof that sentiment could no longer protect the future. Catherine had stayed dignified, William had chosen her openly, and Camilla had exposed the fear beneath her authority. Charles asked for a full review of his personal legacy instructions the next morning. According to a documented palace account, later preserved in the private household record, he did not call it revenge. He did not call it punishment. He simply stood alone after the dinner, beside the folded seating card with Camilla's, Anne's name on it, and understood the truth. The future could not be protected by feeling alone. That dinner became the shadow behind the letter, and when Camilla finally understood that Charles had remembered everything, restraint gave way to confrontation. Camilla did not confront Charles in front of the household. She waited until the room emptied, until the aides withdrew, until the door clicked shut, with the cold finality of a verdict. Then the queen consort turned toward the king, not as a public partner, but as a wounded wife. Her question was simple. Her voice was low, and the answer she received shattered whatever hope remained. Camilla stepped closer to the table, as if distance itself had become an insult. The final wish letter, a private written instruction stating what Charles wanted protected, continued, and honored after him, had not merely left out her name. It had drawn a line between the marriage he lived and the monarchy he was trying to protect. That mattered, because Camilla had spent years standing beside him through storms, ceremonies, and public judgment. It also mattered because royal trust is never just personal. Once written down, it becomes power. Charles remained seated, but he did not look defeated. He looked tired, in the way only a king looks tired, when duty has taken more from him than anyone will ever know. Camilla asked why her name was missing, and for a moment, he said nothing. Then he told her the wish was about the monarchy's future, not the marriage's history. The words landed with brutal calm. The queen consort heard affection being separated from authority, and that separation hurt more than open anger would have. Camilla's face tightened as she tried to hold dignity together with pride. She had survived whispers, judgment, and years of being treated as someone who had to prove her place. Now Charles was telling her that her place beside him did not mean a place inside his final direction. The king knew the wound he had opened. He knew the omission would follow her through every corridor and every guarded smile. Still, he refused to rewrite what he believed protected the crown. Camilla stepped forward again, and this time the hurt sharpened into accusation. "Did Anne influence you?" she asked, letting the name hang between them like a challenge. Charles placed one hand on the table, steady and final. "No, this was mine." The silence after that answer was worse than any argument, because it removed every escape. The queen consort could blame no advisor, no courtier, no cold palace machine. She had to face the truth, that the decision had come from him. Charles had revised the letter twice, according to a recorded private household account, later described by a senior aide in a confidential interview. Each revision moved Camilla further from formal influence, not closer to it. That detail changed everything. The king had not acted in one emotional hour. He had returned to the page, again and again, and chosen the same direction with a colder hand each time. William stopped outside the door, just as the voices rose. The prince heard enough to know that grief had turned into a struggle for control, and his hand paused before the knock. When William entered, the argument stopped. But the power struggle had only begun to move into sharper and more dangerous territory. Royal power does not always roar. Sometimes it sits inside a folder, a private instruction, a family agreement, and the quiet recognition that one generation is preparing to hand the next one more than a throne. Charles's final wish was not just emotional. It was structural. It told the palace who would carry the legacy, who would guard the private memory, and who would no longer stand at the center. William felt the shift before anyone explained it to him. The final wish had given the prince a kind of moral authority, meaning he was no longer only the heir waiting for his time, but the person Charles had trusted to protect the meaning of his reign. That mattered, because family loyalty inside the monarchy is never simple affection. It becomes direction, access, and influence. The king had placed that burden on William, and the future king knew Camilla would see it as a door closing. Catherine carried her place in the letter with quiet unease. Her inclusion signaled that Charles wanted the monarchy's softer public identity preserved through her calm influence, because the crown needed stability people could believe in, not just rules people were told to respect. The Princess of Wales, the title used for the wife of the heir to the throne, had become more than a public figure in this decision. She had become part of the private trust Charles wanted protected, and that made Camilla's absence impossible to hide. Anne understood the machinery behind the words better than anyone. She read a copy of the wish alone, then removed her glasses and let the silence settle before whispering. He finally chose the future, the Princess Royal. The title traditionally given to the monarch's eldest daughter represented discipline, discretion, and the old code of duty that had held the family together through storms. Her role was practical because she could guard the process. It was symbolic because Camilla could not easily challenge her without looking reckless. Camilla saw the decision with terrible clarity. Her title remained untouched, but her influence had been moved outside the private center. The queen consort understood that losing a chair at the inner table could matter more than losing a public honor, because public honors can be photographed, while private power decides who is heard when the doors close. Charles had not humiliated her loudly. He had done something colder. He had made her less necessary. A senior courtier later explained in a confidential household interview that once Charles made the wish known, reversing it would look like weakness or pressure. That warning deepened the suspense because it trapped everyone in the consequence of the king's own words. William could not pretend he had not been chosen. Catherine could not pretend she had not been trusted. Anne could not pretend she had not been summoned. And Camilla could not pretend she had not been removed. Camilla refused to let the new order settle without a fight. She asked for a private meeting with William, not Charles, and that choice revealed everything. The queen consort knew the king had closed one door. Now she wanted to test whether the future king would open another. And when Camilla reached for William instead of Charles, the fallout stopped being quiet and became impossible to contain. The next morning did not bring calm. It brought protocol. The palace moved with polished restraint. But beneath the surface, everyone knew what had changed. Invitations were adjusted. Briefings were narrowed. Certain rooms were suddenly closed to certain conversations. And for Camilla, the cruelty was not in what people said. It was in how carefully they avoided saying anything at all. Camilla received the updated schedule from a courtier, who would not quite meet her eyes. The schedule, the daily written plan showing which royal figures attend private meetings, briefings, and official duties, looked ordinary until she saw the names. William was listed. Catherine was listed. Anne was listed. Camilla was not. The Queen Consort read the page again, slower this time, as if the second reading might restore what the first had taken away. It did not. The absence stayed there, clean and deliberate. Camilla stood by the window with the paper in her hand and said nothing. The private planning session concerned Charles's legacy instructions, which mattered because those instructions would shape who guarded his memory, who carried his priorities, and who influenced the family after the king's authority began to fade. Her exclusion mattered for another reason too. It told the household that the final wish was already becoming practice, not just a painful sentence on a page. The Queen Consort folded the schedule once, then folded it again, then placed it untouched on the side table. William saw the same meeting listed before he entered the room. The prince understood that accepting his place meant accepting more than his father's trust. It also meant accepting Camilla's resentment, and that resentment would not stay hidden forever. Charles had given William a role that sounded noble from the outside, but inside the family, it felt heavier, sharper, and more dangerous. The future king was being asked to honor his father's wish while standing directly in the path of the woman it wounded. Catherine felt no triumph when her name remained on the list. She worried that Camilla would see her presence as victory, even though the responsibility frightened her more than it pleased her. Catherine knew public grace could look effortless, but private trust inside the monarchy came with a cost. Anne understood that cost too. The Princess Royal entered the planning session with calm discipline, yet Anne's silence made clear she knew exactly why Camilla's empty chair mattered. Charles had personally approved the adjusted meeting list, according to a documented household note prepared after the schedule change. That detail removed every possible excuse. No secretary had misunderstood. No aide had overreached. The king had seen the names and allowed the omission to stand. Camilla understood it then, with painful certainty. This was not a mistake. This was the new reality. Camilla picked up her phone and sent William one short message. "We need to speak before this goes any further." The Queen Consort did not send it to Charles, and that choice said everything. That message set the stage for the most revealing private exchange of all. Because without the king in the room, William had to decide what kind of future king he was willing to become. There were no aides in the room when Camilla met William. No secretaries. No ceremonial distance. Just two people bound to the same monarchy and divided by the same letter. Camilla entered hoping the future king might soften the blow. William entered knowing that compassion could not become surrender. What followed was not loud. It was worse. It was final. Camilla sat first, but she did not settle. The final wish structure, the private plan built around Charles's written instructions for who should protect his legacy and guide sensitive family decisions, had become the center of everything that mattered because it was no longer only about one name missing from one page. It was about whether the Queen Consort would have any voice in the emotional future of the family she had fought to enter. It also mattered because William's response would show whether Charles's decision could be challenged through the next reign. William listened without interrupting as Camilla made her request. She did not ask for public praise. She asked for a revision, a named role, something that would prove the king had not placed her outside his trust. The prince kept his hands still, but his expression tightened when she called the exclusion an insult. To him, that word changed the room. It turned his father's painful judgment into a personal attack, and William was not willing to let Charles's final wish be dragged into negotiation. Camilla let the anger fall away for one dangerous second. Beneath it sat sadness, raw and difficult to hide. She admitted that being left out made her feel as if the palace had accepted her crown but not her place. The Queen Consort had stood beside Charles through years of public judgment, and now the private truth felt harsher than any headline. William heard that pain, and it affected him, but feeling it did not mean obeying it. William chose his words carefully, because one careless sentence could turn grief into war. He told Camilla that Charles's wish had to be honored exactly as written, because changing it would turn love into bargaining and duty into pressure. The prince understood the cruelty of that answer. He also understood why it had to be said. The monarchy could survive pain. It could not survive the impression that a final wish could be bent by whoever hurt the loudest. William stood, placed the letter copy back on the table, and said, "My father made this clear." Camilla looked at him for a long moment, searching for softness and finding restraint instead. The queen consort left without another word. The prince remained behind, visibly shaken by the cost of obedience. But private decisions rarely stay private for long, and by the next morning, the world outside the palace had found its own symbol for the rupture. The palace wanted silence, but silence could not compete with the image that greeted Britain at breakfast. One front page carried the story in a way no official statement could soften. A photograph of Camilla beside Charles appeared under a headline that felt less like news and more like judgment. By noon, the private wound had become a national conversation. Camilla saw the paper before anyone brought her a prepared explanation. The London Herald front page, a fictional newspaper cover used here as the public symbol of the crisis, showed Charles looking ahead, while Camilla stood half a step behind him. Beneath the headline, "The Final Wish, Camilla Left Out." That mattered because the story no longer belonged only to the family. It had moved into the hands of readers, broadcasters, and strangers outside the gates, where private pain becomes public meaning. The queen consort placed the paper face down on the table, but the words had already done their work. Charles did not rush to defend her. The king understood that a public denial would weaken the final wish, and a correction would suggest the palace had lost control of its own truth. That mattered, because monarchy depends on the appearance of certainty, especially when emotion threatens to expose the cracks beneath duty. Broadcasters framed the story not as a simple family disagreement, but as a rare look into the influence that decides who stands closest when history turns. A crowd gathered outside Buckingham Palace, in hushed curiosity rather than open anger. Buckingham Palace, the monarch's main working residence and a public symbol of royal authority, had seen celebrations, mourning, and scandal. But this felt different. People stood near the gates, reading the headline on their phones, speaking in low voices, as if they had witnessed something too personal to discuss loudly. The palace had tried to keep the wound quiet. The public had found the scar anyway. William watched the coverage beside Catherine, and neither of them looked relieved. The prince knew every headline made his father's wish harder to reverse, and Camilla's humiliation harder to hide. Catherine understood something deeper. She quietly told him that dignity would matter more than victory, because triumph would make them look cruel, while restraint might protect the monarchy from looking divided beyond repair. William heard her, and the warning settled heavily. Camilla felt the confirmation more than the coverage. The queen consort had endured criticism before, but this headline did something sharper. It told the country that Charles's silence was not confusion. It was acceptance. No denial came. No correction arrived. No palace voice stepped forward to claim she had been misrepresented. Charles chose not to issue a personal defense. The king allowed the final wish to stand exactly as written, and that decision carried the story toward its verdict. With the world now watching, and the palace refusing to retreat, the final meaning of Charles's wish could no longer be hidden inside family walls. In the end, the most powerful part of Charles's final wish was not the list of names. It was the absence. Camilla was not publicly stripped, not formally condemned, not cast out with spectacle. She was simply not chosen for the sacred inner circle of what came next. And that quiet omission delivered a verdict louder than any palace announcement could ever be. Charles had made his deepest trust clear, and no one inside the palace could pretend otherwise. The sacred inner circle, the small private group trusted to guard a monarch's most personal wishes, memories, and future direction, now rested around William, Catherine, and Anne. That mattered because this was not about who stood closest during public ceremonies. It was about who the king believed could protect the emotional meaning of his reign when titles, smiles, and speeches were no longer enough. It mattered even more because Camilla remained visible, yet visibility had been separated from influence. Camilla still had her role, but the story had changed around her. The queen consort could appear beside Charles, stand near the center, and carry the dignity of her title. But the final wish proved that a title is not the same as trust. She had not been shouted down. She had not been publicly dismissed. She had been left out in the one place where silence meant everything. For Camilla, that was the deepest wound. For the monarchy, it was the clearest message. William accepted the burden with quiet pain. The prince understood that leadership sometimes means protecting a truth that hurts people, rather than soothing every wound to keep peace for another day. Catherine became a symbol of steadiness, not because she had demanded power, but because Charles had placed confidence in her calm strength. Anne stood as the final witness to the old royal code, and the Princess Royal recognized what the king had chosen. He had chosen duty over emotional comfort. Charles sat alone with the sealed letter once more, and the finality of it settled over everything. The sealed letter, a private document closed and preserved to show that its words should not be casually changed, now carried more than instructions. It carried judgment. The king touched it once, not with doubt, but with the heaviness of a man who knew exactly what his choice had cost. Then he left it on the desk without changing a single word. There is no further mystery left to solve. Charles made his wish known. Camilla was not in it, and the monarchy stepped into its next chapter, with the silence of that omission still echoing through every palace corridor. The final verdict was clear. The monarchy did not merely exclude Camilla from a document. It revealed where Charles believed the future truly belonged. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you in next one.